Welcome back to the Laura Show. I am here with a dear friend of mine and a colleague / work neighbor at the office, Alice Prince. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm mostly excited because you had me break my Grey Goose cherry today. We have yet to have any alcoholic beverages on this show, and given that there's a bar cart, you'd think I would have done this sooner.
Yeah, I thought this was like on brand for you.
I know,
right?
very on brand for both of us, and I appreciate us drinking now, and we're going to see where this goes.
We won't tell anybody what time of the morning it is.
It's not the morning. It's totally 5 o'clock somewhere, and so I'm already feeling a little bit warm. So I feel like this is going to be a really fun episode for you guys to watch. Just to give you guys some background on who Alice is. Well, she is a real estate agent. Now, obviously, we're going to go into all of that. You're a mother, a wife. You're juggling it all, and I really wanted to have you on this podcast. Selfishly, really, because I'm curious how you actually happen to manage it all. I mean,
there's many hats.
There's many hats that you wear. You're crushing it in the real estate space, and you're obviously beautiful, and you have beautiful children, and you're doing such an incredible job. And I think there's a lot of people who are watching who, a lot of women say, like, we want to have it all. And from the outside looking in often, we think other women have it all. And we're jealous, or we're envious, or we're just curious and wondering for ourselves how we can do this and how we can figure it out. And so I'm hopeful that you can give some kind of tips and tricks, and then probably also debunk the theory that you probably also don't have all your shit together at all times.
No, that's the beauty of social media, right? You can kind of pick and choose how you want to appear to the outside world. But I definitely don't have it all, that's for sure.
Well, you've told me already some amazing stories about yourself that I know, but there's also a lot that I don't know about you. So I actually kind of want to take it back to Alice, maybe as a kid or a teenager. Like, what were you like growing up? What was your experience in your home like?
It's so funny because looking at, where I am now and kind of looking at life as a full circle moment, I've always had this like entrepreneurial spirit within me, and me and my mom, we always kind of laugh and look at, again, where I am now, and it's like, I always knew that you were going somewhere because you used to go into my kitchen, into the pantry, and steal like Campbell's soup cans and sell it to the neighbors. All because I wanted to make a little bit of money to go to the corner store.
So your mom pays for the soup, and then you take the soup and go and sell it. Oh, that's
you got to make money with other people's money. That's the whole thing, right? So I did that for a couple of times. I used to make like lemonade stands, but we didn't have lemonade, or we didn't have lemons in the house. So I used to take all the fruit, mash it up, and dub it as passion fruit lemonade. I don't even know, but. Yeah, I would do anything to kind of, make a little money.
And what were you using the money for? Like, was it the money really that you were after?
No, I wanted these, this is so nostalgic. Do you remember these like Jolly Rancher gumballs that used to come in like a pack of 6?
Yes.
And they were like massive, and they were so good. So I used to drive my bike to the corner store, not that my mom never wanted to give me money, but I guess she wanted to teach me how to earn $1. And that was crucial growing up, and it kind of has transpired into what it is today.
Was money tight for your mom, or was
Not
it just
at
like
all,
she really wanted that as a lesson to you?
Yeah, she just wanted that as a lesson. We were immigrants to Canada. I came when I was 3. I was born in Poland. She came to Canada with a toddler and 2 weeks of luggage and made a life for ourselves.
Wow. So, what did she do, out of curiosity?
She went to school for computers and to learn English. I remember going with her to college. It was at Centennial College, and sitting in class with her in night classes, and like drawing with a highlighter, and like playing with her like whiteout and all that kind of stuff, just to keep me quiet. And yeah, she took the time and learned, and that's kind of where I got my work ethic.
It's so funny. Oftentimes, I hear from people like, I want to give my kids what I didn't have. Yeah. But there really is something to giving your kids a bit of a hard time, like not giving them everything that they want, or not giving them everything that you didn't have just because you hated it. There is something to, making them work for it. And obviously 100%. That inspired something very early on in you.
Yeah, we never, I had a great childhood. We were never tight with money like that, but I'm glad that
there's certain moments that obviously she instilled in you that played out through the rest of your life. So, did you go to university? Like, what was the transition
I went to Humber for business marketing. I did not finish. I'm not really a studious student. I love to learn, but just
why
sitting
business
in a
marketing?
classroom, I just love business.
Okay.
Right? Like from a young age.
So you were like, that sounds like the right path. Like, let's do the business thing.
Yeah. I also went to hair school.
That's why your hair's always
I do have a hair background.
I was wondering, like, how is this humanly possible that you come to work looking like that every day? Now I know. Hair school.
But yeah, so I went to hair school, did the hair thing. So everything that I kind of have done throughout my life has kind of, I've been able to use that skill set into real estate today, right? Like the business marketing, the hair stuff. I was also a manager at Donato Salon here at the shops at Don Mills.
When and how long? Because that's where I get my hair done.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been getting my hair done there for probably 10 years.
Really?
So, but you've been a realtor for?
I've been a realtor for about 5 years now.
5 years.
Yeah.
So you might have been there when I was getting.
I was there like 10 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We probably met or
Maybe.
something. And I was like, can I have her hair? Like secretly to the people who were doing my hair. Her hair. I want her hair.
But yeah, so everything that I've kind of done has led me to where I am now. And
why did you, like, what made you feel confident enough to quit school? Because I think a lot of people, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, put it in the comments, but like they get into school because they think that's the right path, right? And we're taught that. I certainly was taught that. And I wanted to be successful. And so I went to school and I was like, I'm going to stick it out. And I stuck it out probably longer than I should have because all the writing was on the wall that I wasn't going to be a nutritionist and I wasn't really going to go down that path, but I stuck it out anyways. I almost wish I had a bit of the courage and the, to quit and say this isn't right for me. What gave you that courage?
I had one semester left. I kind of regret not doing it, but it was just kind of like there's nothing that I'm learning that I can't really teach myself, you know? I don't know if it necessarily was courage. It was just kind of like, I'm done here. I want to do work for myself, be an entrepreneur. And that skill set that I learned during those years in school has helped now, but I don't necessarily think that people need to go to school. Unless, of course, you're kind of specifically specializing in something like doctor, lawyer, of course, right? But if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, there's so many resources and mentors that you can go under and learn from and expedite your business.
I always make the joke that I'm probably like the most highly educated real estate agent, unnecessarily so, because I stuck with the school route. I have my undergraduate degree, got my master's degree, but you're right. Most of my learning from a business perspective has been in the just doing and the learning and the failing and the journey. Now, I like you said, there's always experiences that you can draw on. So there's things that I learned in school that I think have definitely helped me and maybe given me a bit of a leg up in some regard, but not to the point where, you should be going into debt and it should take you all these years. Like what you can really learn just putting yourself in the real world.
It's expensive. And if you find a good mentor, someone that you align with, that can take you from having to go to school for 5-10 years or whatever it is and doing it in 2 and being successful.
So you quit. What do you do?
Quit.
What happened after that?
What happened after that?
You were like, okay, now were you living at home still?
No, I was living by myself downtown.
So
I
you
had
have
a
bills to
roommate.
pay.
Yeah, I went through a little party girl phase, which I think everyone should go through.
Hey.
Exactly. I mean, you can't take the girl out of the party, but so I ended up meeting my husband. We got pregnant very quickly and
how quick is
started a family.
If you don't mind me asking?
Very quickly.
I love
very,
this.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Probably like within the first month.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
So
okay.
very quickly, I was engaged.
And you had just met him, like a month prior.
Yeah.
So like shit was going down.
Shit
a little
was
stressful.
Going down. Shit was going down.
I'm sorry, and I'm asking not to try to pry into your business, but you can't plan for everything. Like oftentimes it's like, I want to make these plans and you write down how you think your life's going to work out. I unfortunately have had the complete opposite experience than you, where my husband and I have been trying to get pregnant for many, many years now, and it just doesn't seem to be in the cards for us, at least at this time. The complete opposite, and it's not how you always envision. As we're kids, we're little girls, and we're like, it's going to be like this. I'm going to get married, and then I'm going to have my 2 children, and my house is going to be be like this.
100%.
And then it happens differently.
It happens so differently. But I was at an age where I was like, you know what? If it doesn't happen how I want it to, with a beautiful family and like mom and dad together, then I'm at an age where I'm okay that I can have this child by myself. So either way, I'm going to have a baby.
So you were scared but confident, like I can do this.
Terrified. Yeah.
Wow.
It was one of those things where it's like, you got to do it. Like you made this, you did the decision, you made the decision. You got to live.
And were you working though at this time?
Or was that added pressure? At the time, I was a receptionist at a hotel. So at the time I was kind of like figuring out where I wanted to be career-wise. So didn't really have a ton of money at the time, which was also terrifying because now I'm bringing in a child to this. And then 3 months after meeting my husband, we were engaged. So that added more pressure, and I think both of us really wanted to, work it out and to be a family and to kind of see where this is going because we owe it to our child, right? He also had 3 other children from a previous marriage, which was like another stress factor.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. So
Yeah.
you went from single girl party lifestyle to now a quasi mother of 3 and 1 on the way.
And 1 on the way.
Oh my goodness.
So a lot of responsibility,
Wow.
but it wasn't like it was not welcomed. I knew kind of what I was getting into, but very, very scary nonetheless. And then fast forward, we got married when my daughter was 8 months old. So that happened. And I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm like, I need to be somebody for my daughter. I need to show her.
I mean, you were busy.
It's
not like you were doing
but I wanted
nothing.
a
You were
career, right?
caring
I've
for
always
someone.
been very, very driven, and I knew that I wanted to show my daughter that women can do anything, and that there's no ceiling for women. I think a lot of women get into the workforce and they feel kind of almost stuck because being a mom, being a wife, like having to take care of the house, there's so much responsibility that we have to do that is essentially unpaid.
Yes.
But to feel fulfilled, I needed to work, right? I needed to create something for
So
myself.
it seems like that was a pretty easy decision for you to kind of say, okay, I'm gonna, like, I have an 8-month-old,
Yeah.
but mom's going to work.
Basically, yeah. So on mat leave, I hated mat leave. It was really boring. I was going crazy. I wasn't feeling fulfilled, which then caused strain on my marriage.
Yes.
So we started to do a meal prep company. My husband was a director of personal training at a gym, so he had access to people that, a large database that I thought wanted to eat healthy. And it all started with a sauce. I used to make him lunches, and I sent him to work with this. It was a Thai coconut curry sauce. And I was like, just let your colleagues try it, right? And so some of his colleagues tried it, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? It's amazing. So a light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, I'm going to create gourmet, take-home, ready-made
Were you
meals.
always a good chef, or cook?
Yeah, my mom was a good cook, too.
Okay.
Everything I kind of learned was from my mom. So
Okay.
shout out Anna, because
Aw.
you're the best. Yeah, so a light bulb went off, and I'm like, I could turn this into a business, even if it's just a little side hustle for now. So we created the website, we created a photo shoot, we created the menus, all this sort of
I
stuff.
feel like the hardest part, correct me if I'm wrong, is really in the packaging. Like
Yeah.
packaging up food so it lasts a couple days, I imagine, right?
Right, creating recipes that you can put away or maybe freeze. So that was a big kind of challenge that we had to overcome
And
there.
you just did this through trial and error,
Yeah.
like researching stuff
Yeah,
online?
I remember so in the beginning, we probably had like 2 or 3 clients, which were his colleagues, and I didn't have the containers to put them in. So I would send them on my kitchen plates with like saran wrap over and send it to him, and like they would pay me for that.
Oh, wow.
That's so funny.
Well, it doesn't get more home cooked than that. Like
Yeah.
the feeling of that. It's
Yeah.
funny because I use, for the last couple years now, I've been getting meal services delivered, and like the time savior of it all,
100%.
and the meal planning, then the meal prep,
It
then
takes
all
away
the
the
shit that you
bandwidth.
throw away.
Yeah.
And if you want to eat, like, again, I have a nutrition degree, like I like to feel at least like I'm eating healthfully, and to kind of like make sure that you're eating across the spectrum. Like you buy this, you only need like this much basil, but you have to buy the whole thing. And so
Yeah.
I feel like these are such good options for people. Like this is a hack, right? Like I know it seems so simple, but my husband and I really struggled with who was gonna cook, and it
100%.
caused, and who's gonna clean after the cooking. And so for us, this was
Cleaning.
like a no-brainer. It's
Yeah.
like, look, we can get pretty decent food delivered, and they've gotten a lot better, like over the last couple of years. And I'm sure you know this, like a lot of them were awful tasting. I
Yeah,
don't know if you did your research like that.
Yeah, and we ordered from a couple, and we're just like, oh, mine's better.
Yeah, and they were bad. And I think that industry as a whole has really progressed a lot. And so I think if there's women out there who are trying to juggle it all, to me, unless you are like madly in love with cooking, or like be madly in love with cooking but do it on the weekends.
Right.
There's something about, especially real estate, like we're not home at a typical time. It's not like you get home every day at 5:30. It's you're working evenings sometimes, so sometimes you just need to bring something to work, but you want to eat healthfully, right? And so I think that's such a great tip. But sorry to interrupt. So you started doing that. You were sending people with plates.
Yeah.
Did it blow up? Kind of.
We did. We had about 75 to 100 people like on rotation at once. So that was cool, and we were about to expand into a commercial space because everything was starting out at home. And initially, this kind of started as like something to fill my cup and something to essentially feed my family because I'm cooking anyways. Might as well make some money out of it, and save the cost on groceries because it was kind of paying for itself. So I had one employee that was not my family. My husband was also working for me-ish, and then my father-in-law was like helping me with deliveries. So I guess we had like a 4-person team, you could say. And it was gonna explode, and then I got pregnant with my second. So then I started thinking, I don't wanna cook for the next 18 years because I'm gonna have to do it for my kids for so long. Like, I just don't wanna cook all the time. So that's when real estate crept into my mind. I also, when I had my first daughter, or when I had my first child, was thinking about real estate, but I was like, I don't know, I can't do it. You kind of like talked yourself out of it a little bit, because I knew that.
Did you think you could, like, you weren't smart enough, good enough? Like, I mean, there's a lot of real estate agents.
Like, I didn't know if I can have a newborn and hustle it. But then all of that kind of shifted when I had my son, or when I was pregnant with my son.
What was the shift from, though? Like, what made you think now I think I can juggle another kid and somehow manage it?
I think because I created a business, like the meal prep business kind of was like showed me that you can do it, right? And I think that a lot of the times we get in our heads and think so negatively, and it's so easy to think negatively, but then if the negative thoughts kind of creep in, why not tell ourselves the positive thoughts? You know what I mean? You just have to have that small shift, and it can have the same impact as the negative thoughts.
What's given you kind of that frame of reference? Like, do you read personal development books, or is that just through experience you kind of learn, like, hey, if I think negatively, I feel negative, and that seems to be a self-fulfilling prophecy? Or was it something that, like,
I think it was a little bit of everything. In high school, I had. Who doesn't have a toxic relationship in high school? And I found myself, in chapters reading self-help books, right? Just how to kind of get over this chump. So maybe a little bit of that, but I've always kind of been a positive person and realized the impact that the negative talk has on us. So why not switch it and go back to the positive talk, right?
It's so interesting. Oftentimes, and you know this because we've been in each other's world now for quite some time, but I speak to a lot of real estate agents. And we talk to them about hosting an event or doing podcasting and putting yourself on camera and stuff like that. And a lot of people will say, well, Laura, I'm not as confident as you are. And I think it's so interesting because I think people really think that the confidence comes first.
No.
And it doesn't. Like, it's you needed an experience to give you like that little ounce of like, I think I can. Yeah. But it's not like you knew that going into it. No. And so it's drawing on those little experiences again and again. And it's like saying, I always tell people, like, look back on an experience in your life where you did overcome something and you did have a fear and you did it anyways. And oftentimes, unfortunately, those things are all when we're kids, right? Like, think of kids, they're always overcoming fears.
100%.
Like, everything they do is fearful and then they're overcoming it. But somewhere along the way, when we get older, we just start saying, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. You and I were talking on our way here, and I was saying, like, I still get uncomfortable when I do these podcasts. Like about an hour before, I'm like, whew.
Yeah.
But it's funny, it used to be the night before.
Right.
Like,
so
now
it's
getting better. I'm getting better. And then now I also know as soon as it's over, I'm going to feel so happy. So I also have that experience and that history to draw from to say, like, you just have to get through it. But I think some people just can't get their head around, like, you just got to kind of do it first and then the confidence comes out.
Yeah, you have to get out of your own way. To your point, confidence does not come first and foremost. Everyone's kind of seeking, like, okay, what am I going to do to, like, feel confident in this moment for me to take the next step? But confidence stems from the action of doing it, right? Like, you're not going to die getting in front of the camera.
It feels like it, though.
It feels like it, yeah. But the more repetition that you put into it, the more reps, then the better that you become and you build that confidence muscle, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to learn something. Whether it's, okay, I didn't like the way I sounded, so how can I change the voice? Or I look like so for my videos, I read a teleprompter, but a lot of the times you can't tell.
Oh, I would have no idea.
Sometimes you can, but thank you. But that's something that I knew that I had to do to get in front of the camera for me to feel comfortable. I couldn't just like memorize something or speak off the cuff.
So it's kind of like do whatever you need to at least start something. And sometimes that means having crutches along the way. But my guess is you'll get to that point where you don't need the teleprompter and you'll just, right? But you kind of got it. Everyone has to start somewhere. And no one has to be perfect right off the bat. you know, people always think like, oh, let me practice. But I'm like, no, you have to practice like actually doing it.
Executing it.
Yeah, executing it, putting yourself out there, being vulnerable. Yeah. Practicing in private, unfortunately, is not the same as putting yourself out there and really allowing yourself the opportunity that you might fail. And it might come across as bad, or people might not like you and they'll judge you, right? But doing it and then learning, hopefully, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's your experience that like, okay, now I can draw from that and I can move forward, right?
I think also having the understanding and being okay with the fact that you're going to fail is also part of the process, right? And I think it's an important part of the process because you're going to learn who you are.
Did you have a hard time with your husband or your family, like explaining like, I'm going to go into real estate now while I'm pregnant? Like, what was that conversation like?
Yeah, he was supportive of me going through the courses and everything, but in the first year or so being in real estate really put a financial strain on our marriage. And there's been times that, it was really, really challenging. We didn't know if we were going to make it. Because it's tough. It's such a hard industry. And I think that people get into this industry thinking that it's just easy. They see everybody's cars online and us realtors flaunting our stuff, which is like, that's not real life. Like, it's insane that people do that. But anyways, nonetheless, it was really, really tough. Yeah. And it really gave us some challenging times.
But you just, I guess, had this still belief in yourself. Like you were like, no, we're going to get past this, right? Like there must have been something that told you this is my path and I'm going to keep going down it. Because you could have taken the easier option. I mean, you could have gone back to doing hair or like working at Donato. You could have gone back to the food service or just said, look, I'm going to stay at home and focus on my kids from now and kind of like put your career by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time during this whole real estate journey that like, you know, I didn't have anything really to my name. So I really didn't have an opportunity to fail more. I was kind of like at my rock bottom. So I said, what do I need to do to get my first client? And I realized where my downfalls were, and it was just speaking about the market to people, right? Getting that confidence to talk about the market and to learn and understand it, where I would feel confident speaking to somebody. And my very first client, I remember, they're just like, oh, how long have you been doing this for? And I didn't really tell them. I was just like, oh, you know, I forget what I said, but it just made it seem like it was a long time. Yeah. And they're like, oh, you're really knowledgeable. And then that light bulb went off in my head. So I was like, okay, every week I need to ensure that I know what it is I'm talking about. So I would write out like 2 or 3 objections that I would get from people and how I'm going to handle that. And then that started building those blocks to getting better.
A lot of times talking to realtors, that's the issue, right? It's I don't know how to speak to the market. And you had mentioned a mentor earlier, like putting yourself around people who kind of know what they're talking about. And we're so fortunate because our broker of record, Chris Slidham, shout out to him, he like every single week is like, he's the numbers nerd. I actually had his wife on this podcast. Yes. So they're quite the little powerhouse couple. But, you know, he's teaching us every single week. Like he's doing all the number crunching and then he's explaining it to us kind of in layman's terms where it's understandable because it can feel overwhelming. And unfortunately, I feel like people say, well, it's overwhelming, so I don't want to do it. So instead, let me like point out these beautiful granite countertops. Yeah. But like the granite countertops, that might be an objection, but most of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the market, right? Yeah. Should I buy now? Exactly. Is it a bad opportunity? When's a good time? You know, when do you think the market's going to bottom out? Do you think there's a bubble? It's how do you answer those questions? And sadly, I feel like for us realtors online, I mean, don't cry. Like this isn't my little violin playing by any means, but we have a bad rap. And I get a lot of negative comments and feedback about like, oh, you know, poor real estate agents, you put a sign on the lawn and you make all this money.
Yeah,
and
that's not the
think
case,
that people really don't realize, like there's 77,000 realtors in the greater Toronto area. Like we're everywhere.
But really only a handful of those are good.
Yeah. Like, well, if you look at the 77,000, you compare it to how many deals were done, really the average agents doing 2.1 deals, that's hardly a salary, like that's hardly a living.
Or even an experience.
Yeah.
Like you need that experience with clients to be able to guide someone's financial decision. You know what I mean? Like we're dealing with people's livelihoods.
Well, and that's just it, because I think people say, well, yeah, you can put the sign out on the lawn, and there's realtors who do that, and you can make good money that day. The problem is if you misinform someone, you might have been a massive detriment to their entire life. and their children's lives.
Yeah.
And that's a big responsibility. I don't think anyone gives any credit toward that. But most people get into the industry not because they just want to like make money hand over fist. I mean, making money is great, but I think a lot of us get into the industry with good intentions of like, no, I really want to help people, and I understand the gravity of it. I think that's why so many realtors are afraid, or people are afraid to get in the industry, because you realize I'm dealing with people's biggest asset.
Yeah.
And if I misguide someone, that's going to be really, like, how do I sleep at night?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you get into real estate. Where did you start? Like by yourself? Were you doing it alone? Did you join a team?
I started by myself. I was in it for about 2 months by myself. I door knocked. Hated door knocking.
How you door knocked for 2 months?
I think I did it for a week. Girl. It was just like
I did door knocking twice, and I was like, that's
in heels in the dead of summer.
Yep.
And my whole shtick was I bought like little popcorn bags, like in the cellophane, wrapped it up around a flyer, and was like, "Hey, just popping by, like your local realtor." No, and nobody liked it. No, everyone was like, "Why are you giving me popcorn? Like that's so weird."
And like, I can't eat your popcorn. I don't know who you are.
Yeah, and I was just like, "Oh, this is probably worst idea." But anyways, I tried it. I seen like an American do it, I think, which they do real estate so differently over there. I was telling you.
Yes.
But I was like, "This is a great idea." But yeah, prior to getting into real estate, I wrote down like all these like ideas of what I'm going to do to like connect with people, and it was just that was one of those things. So then after that,
What did you hate about it?
door knocking?
Yeah,
I didn't know what I was
specifically.
going to say. I was just underprepared, right?
That's what I hear all the time. I never know what to say.
I had,
People
like,
also don't like
imposter
making
syndrome.
cold calls. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm better on the phone because you can't really see my face, and I can hang up on you. Like from a door, I can't like just run away. Like that would be like imagine me just like screaming
I'm
down
just calling
the street.
about your.
Or like you know, like I would pray that people wouldn't answer the door, and I would just be like, okay, like I door knocked.
Isn't
just
that
to
so
feel-
unfortunate? Like you're out hustling, doing the thing, saying like I door knocked all day, but really at the end of the day, you're hoping people don't even answer.
Yeah, yeah. And going back to your point of being a little kid, I used to sell my mom's cans.
Yeah, you did that.
You know, so I don't know where that like fell off. But yeah, anyways, once I started growing my confidence muscle, things became easier. But I did join a team for about 6 months.
Okay. What was the
after
thinking
the
there?
2 months.
You thought what?
I thought I would get the support, mentorship, which was great for a little bit until I realized that the team wasn't really a great fit because we just had different visions of kind of where we wanted to take a business, right? At the end of the day, it was their business, I understand that. But I did a couple of deals under that, so that was good. It created, it gave me confidence. And I realized what the experience of like taking a client was, how we would go down that. So that was good. And then they ended up leaving our brokerage, and I was by myself. I felt back like I was back to square one, right? It was hard. It was definitely really hard.
So when you say square one, you mean because you were using their branding, you were using their database?
Their database, yeah.
Gotcha.
So they did a lot of like online lead generation stuff, which I guess I took also, like I was able to take their leads too, but I didn't have that mentorship that I think a lot of agents need.
I think it's funny. So I joined a team when I started as well. That happens to be the same team that I'm on today. I couldn't imagine starting as a solo agent, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And look, I get it. If you have all the confidence and you have all the information, great. But I think the average agent, like when I was working my first listing, they teach you kind of in school how to do that, sort of. But then all of a sudden you're in the middle of a negotiation. Like if you're lucky enough to get a client, you're like, holy shit, like here you show up all confident to the listing appointment, really inside you're dying. And then you get it and you're like, holy fuck, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And then the negotiation starts happening and you don't know your head from your ass, really. And I can only imagine doing that without someone like guiding me. Like and saying like, this is what we're gonna do next and this is what we're gonna do next. So I'm so thankful for having a team. I certainly would recommend it to other people, but I also think there is a time and a place where you kind of outgrow your team. And maybe that didn't happen naturally for you, but I still think you'd be where you are today, which is like you're running your own show, right? And there's a lot of power in that too. So you leave, so the team leaves, you're now on your own and you're like, okay, what do I do?
And then I feel like I'm back to like, as you know, we don't get to keep 100% of our commission, and there's costs associated to running a business.
Everyone thinks that we do.
I know,
Yeah.
and being new, I was like, I guess I just didn't allocate my money properly. So from those couple of deals that I did, it was gone. And you know, that financial strain came back, right?
Can I ask maybe a personal question? Did you spend the money on other business expenses? Like, did you put the money back in your business, or were you like, let's go on vacation? And like,
No, yeah, I put it back into my business. I did the online
well, at
lead.
least you did that.
Thankfully, I had the sense to do that.
Yes.
But still, like the turnover from when you speak to a client doesn't necessarily transpire to 90 days or more after, right? So I was like, I need money today. So I was like, okay, what the heck am I gonna do? So I got a mentor, so that was good. Did a couple of stuff with them, and that was helpful. But again, I didn't want to feel like I was riding the coattails of somebody else. So I really sat down with myself and had to have an honest conversation because I was tired of like digging through the couch for $1. So I was like, you need to get better at cold calling. If you're not going to door knock, you need to do something. If you're going to do online lead generation, you need to get better at like, I don't want to call it scripts, but like at the conversation. So I really spent time and dialed into that, and that's how about 75% of my business, I would say, has grown from online lead gen.
You know, it's really interesting. I heard a couple of things that you've sort of said throughout our time so far. You know, it sounds like your back was a bit against the wall.
Yeah.
And I've heard this from a lot of people, right, who get into real estate and their back's against the wall. They tend to be the ones that really do succeed. It's the ones that kind of are like, oh, I'm just looking for a hobby or something to fill my time. Or, you know, I work full time and this is just, I want to make more money as a real estate agent. But when your back's not against the wall, unfortunately, and you either have a spouse maybe that's really supplementing your income or like paying for your lifestyle, or you have another job that's paying for your lifestyle, and you don't really have that fire under your ass because your back's not against the wall, because you're like, well, I can pay all my bills.
Yeah.
Sadly, but also fortunately, I feel like the people who get into the industry and they don't have a safety net are the ones that really succeed, because they're the ones that are like, I don't want to cold call people. Nobody wants to cold call people. No. It's not fun to be told to F off or just have the phone hung up or no one answers.
Or no one answers.
And then you spend a year and you haven't made $1.
Yeah.
That's not fun for anybody. But knowing that you have no choice, you're going to do it anyways, right? And so I think sometimes people get into the industry and they think it's, I'll just work with people I know and my friends will just use me. They won't even use you because they know 16 realtors also.
And they know that you don't have experience.
Yeah.
So that was
another
another
like, sorry,
huge
I'm not
thing.
going to trust you. And you're like, but how do I get the experience if you don't give it to me?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think they think that the business is going to come easily. They don't really have to lift a finger. And they're going to make a lot of money. And it's really, really not like that. So kudos to you, because you were like, I just got to make the phone calls.
Yeah, I really had
What
no
did
choice.
you say on these calls? Because you said I didn't know what to say at the door. So what did you say on the phone calls?
What did I say at the door? Oh, sorry, on the phone. So because it was online lead stuff, it was, I guess, like a warm call, right? They were looking at properties, whatever. So I would kind of start there, just something very generic. And I don't know if I was very good in the beginning, but hey, I ended up getting a few, so that was nice, and then it just kind of trickled from there.
So you got a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden our back's not against the wall. Hopefully things at home have kind of settled down, because at this point you're like, look, no, I can do it. But how are you juggling it? How are you honestly going to work, doing what you need to do at work while you got 2 kids at home, a husband? Yeah,
they were really, really little. And also when they were little and kind of getting into this real estate thing, my husband and I were also, my husband was going through a bankruptcy. So again, I had no choice. I didn't really have a choice to even feel bad for anything. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of women, they want to pursue careers and they feel guilty because their kids are little and it's I have to spend time with the kids, but it's
it was survival mode, really.
Yeah, 100%.
So paying the bills, putting food on the table trumps they're not going to have their mom around them every single day. Did you feel judged at all from other mothers by chance? Or did people know your circumstance and so they were understanding of it? Or you just were like, blinders on, I'm not paying any attention?
Yeah, I blocked everything out and just kind of dove in. Actually, it's funny, recently I felt judged by a mom for going to work, and it's
interesting. How did do you mind telling that story? How did that come up? Because I think this is common, right?
Very common.
Yeah.
Well, she was also once upon a time a realtor in her life, and I just think that maybe I don't want to say she was envious or jealous, but sometimes people are not really where they want to be in their lives. So they kind of like tend to look down on you when really they wish they could have done maybe something differently. So that was kind of like a moment. And in that moment, I was like, maybe I should have been there for my kids more. But you know what? No, I threw that out of my head. And it's kind of like my kids have a great life. Like they see me when they see me. It's not like I'm never home.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but there are weekends that I have to work all weekend and I can't be there for them. But that's okay because my daughter's seeing a strong woman, like the same woman that I had in my life as my mom, grow up, and I hope that I'm instilling that work ethic into her. And my son's also seeing the fact that women go to work. Right? Like he doesn't see, and he sees my husband do stuff at home too, like cook and clean. And so it's creating this really well-rounded, I think, children for the future.
Has that been tough to try to figure out the roles at home? Like who does what, or is that easy for you
Maybe
guys?
in the beginning a little bit more, but he's always been pretty hands-on, I would say. Sometimes there's challenges, of course, but I mean, we get over it.
Yeah. Well, you, like you said, you kind of have to. It's funny. Without children, you know, my husband and I, like, we've had to go through the, like, okay, this is, like, literally writing it down. Like, this is everything that needs to be done at home. Who's going to do what?
Yeah.
Because what I found was at the start, when we first moved into together, you know, you picture it being, like, wonderful and, you know, I'm going to do all this. Like, yeah, it's going to be great. And, honey, I'm going to have snacks for you when you get home, you know. All that bullshit. And then real life happens and you're like, okay, no, I don't want to always have the burden of doing all that. So we like literally just and every year we kind of reevaluate because things change over a year, right? So it's like, okay, now what makes sense? And at one time he was working way longer hours than I was, so it made sense that I would carry more of the work at home. Where that's changed now. Now I'm the one that's spending more time at work and he's spending more time at home. But it is a shift, right? Because he didn't picture himself doing those types of jobs, and he's not particularly good at some of them. But, you know, I also hear women say, well, my husband doesn't load the dishwasher correctly. And I agree with them. I don't feel my husband loads the dishwasher correctly according to me. But the problem is that if you nag on those things, then they're not, like, what's the option here? Like, for it to be your way, or, like, is 80% good enough? Like, just bring it to 80% and we'll figure the rest out. And so I think sometimes people have this romantic look of what everything's going to be and that our way is the right way. And women tend to be very, or at least some of the women I know, hyper-focused on like small little details that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, but they feel that's the way it should be done. Yeah. Because that's the way their mother did it and that's just the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. So kudos to you guys. You've sort of figured it out. I want to kind of take us to, you know, where we're at today. So I heard you once say, I hope you don't mind if I say this. I think you said, I want to be the Beyonce of real estate. What does that mean?
She just does it all, and you would never see Beyonce sweat. You know what I mean? She just has a really good handle on her brand, on her business, on everything, but she also, I realize, has a huge team behind her, and she's a mother, and she's a wife, and she juggles all these things and makes it look so good. But she puts on a wonderful performance, and that's what I want. I mean, obviously I don't want to, I guess performance for my clients is like a weird thing to say, but creating like a really good experience for my clients. I
get that though. You know, often me and my colleague Jazz will talk about, you know, everyone has a Beyonce in them, or like that type of talent, or, you know, we'll use different names. He probably says like Kobe Bryant, or I would use a Beyonce, right? Where it's like, you can be the top in your industry, whatever that is. So I like that you're aspiring to someone, because some people say, well, Beyonce, like, what does that even mean? But hey, why can't you be the Beyonce of real estate? Why can't you be juggling all these things and doing it at such a high level?
While having a family and still filling your cup, right?
And the team thing, I know that you've kind of been going back, like I know you want to build a team, because that's truly how I think that you're going to become the Beyonce. How's that going for you? Because I know there's people that are watching, they're like, I'm in real estate, and they might be at that place too where they're thinking of growing a team, but there's fears in doing that, because A, you have to delegate. That's not easy for people. B, you don't always find the right people. So what's been your experience?
I thought it was going to be easier than it has been. I didn't really aspire for these challenges to come into place. But yeah, it's hard to find somebody that is essentially like you. But you also don't want someone like you. You want someone that maybe has opposite strengths, or to fill your weaknesses, I guess you should say. it's been challenging for sure. But I think patience and knowing what you want out of the business, I think you should definitely start there. Because I think people just get into, oh, I want to start a team to like leverage my time. Okay, but what does that mean? Like, what do you want for the team? How are you going to provide value to them, and how can they provide value to you? And having like a clear outline of what that looks like and what that means is going to be paramount.
Ooh, that's good. It sounds like you do a lot of reflecting. Like I've just heard you say, like I go home and I think about it and I look at myself in the mirror, and you ask yourself these tough questions. Some people are better at that than others. But I think that that's a skill, right? It's having those difficult conversations and saying like, what is going to fulfill me? What's going to make me happy? And what do I want for my business? You're right. People say, I just want to grow a team because I want to essentially sit at home and make money. Is that what it really is? Or is it like, I just don't want to do the work that I don't particularly enjoy and someone else can do it? Like, what has it been for
me,
you? Yeah.
I just want to leave a legacy for my kids. I want for them to look at their mom and be proud. Right? And if they choose to get into real estate, great. If not, then that's okay too. But yeah, I don't know. I started the YouTube thing, and now my daughter's always like, you're so famous. Like, you're on YouTube.
Oh, that must feel so nice.
Yeah, and then so maybe she will get out of her comfort zone because she's a pretty shy person to begin with. So I'm hoping that, seeing her mom kind of grow and get out of my comfort zone, it'll help her. So.
It's funny. I think so often kids, certainly, or having someone in your life that you want to kind of make proud is important because it forces you to do the things that you might not have done otherwise if it was just left up for you. So I suspect that they're both going to be very, very proud of you. I think you have a lot to be proud of. I kind of want to end this off on maybe one final tip because I suspect that the majority of people watching today are going to be real estate agents, but I hope that there's also just career-oriented women. So you can go down either path. Tip for a real estate agent, tip for, career-oriented mothers out there. What's kind of something that you want to leave to those people as like, learn from me, don't learn the hard way?
I think when it comes down to being confident, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up feeling confident, whether you're going down real estate path or getting in front of video or, wanting to leave your kids at home and start a career. It really comes from the action of doing it. You have to just get out of your head and one little step at a time, right? Just do something to move that needle forward each day to get to where you want to be in your goal.
My gosh, I love that because I think it's so true. And I appreciate everything that you've been doing for the industry. I think you are one of those people that I look at from the outside and say, this is someone who's actually leveling up the industry and making it better. And I'm very, very confident that any client who's lucky enough to work with you is getting the type of service that I hope every realtor aspires to give. Aw, I do that on this show. I don't know why. I just think you have so much to be proud of. And I'm very, very grateful that you took the time to be here today because you could be out selling real estate and doing your thing, but it's important to give back and to hopefully inspire some other women to look at you and say like, fuck yes, I can have it all too. So kudos to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And guys, we'll see you next time.